Okay, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for coming for today's session on observation opportunity discovery methodologies. As part of the requirements for master's and PhD program. So we stopped in this area where we are wondering what is observation and how we can tackle observation during, again, any projects for inspiration economy, and how it is play a major role in actually in problem solving and inspiration currency development. So it is a multidisciplinary approach for collecting observations, which fuel the inspiration labs or the inspiration projects. That was defined by me in about 10 to 15 years ago as a collection of observation that we collect without fear and we act upon without hesitance. It can be argued that all social research is a form of participant observation, as the social world cannot be studied without being a part of it, as Atkinson and Hammersley mentioned in 1998. So observation is about concerns that we collect about the physical, the social, the natural, the human, and the economical environment around us. And this is what is confirmed by Paul and Lambert in 2002. One of the characteristics of the observation is that it is a developmental process rather than a judgmental one. So when we observe, we remember to avoid secondary data and try to collect primary data. Observations and inspiration economy need to be organized according to pre-observation situation. The field or the primary data is the concern. So the observation coming from the colleagues on the same field or from different perspectives should be of concern, and the post-observation conditions also can be studied. Now, reflection is part of the final process of observation, where the peers notes can play a part in calibrating the observation outcome. There are different types of observation that we should focus on during any inspiration lab. One is the naturalistic observation, and this type of observation where we involve the observing group or individuals and their natural environment without any manipulation or control by the observer. The naturalistic observation is often used to study behaviors that occur in real life setting. This is very important sometimes when you are trying to tackle, for example, an ethical issue or a challenging issue, a criminal issue. This is a very helpful type of observation. The other type of observation is participant observation, where the observer becomes an active participant in the group or environment being observed. For example, going to a rural area, living with the poor. This method allows for a more in-depth understanding of the behavior being studied, but may raise ethical concerns about the observer potential influence on the behavior. The third type of observation is the controlled observation. And this type of observation involve manipulating the environment or conditions under which the observer takes place, or the observation takes place. This method allows for greater control over variables being studied, and it can help to establish a causal relationship between variables. This is very important part for inspiration economy, especially when we start to look for or exploit the opportunities within the problem. Because here we, based on the relationship and the association of relationships between the variables, we can extract actually the opportunities. The fourth type of observation that we use is the structured observation. Now, in this type of observation, the observer uses predetermined checklist or a rating scale to collect data on a specific behavior or variables. Let's say, for example, you are tackling, for example, anxiety, or you are tackling suicide, or an issue relevant to, for example, patients, or issue relevant to what make youth migrate. Based on a certain scale, this method will help us to see the complex behaviors within this problem and the situation that is leading to this problem, directly or indirectly. So we can observe or monitor the behaviors that is leading to this problem. Now, there are cycles of observation that influence the socio-economic development. These cycles start with observation and absorption and then reflection. This type of reflection might create a type of paradigm. If we continue to do certain type of observation, we create for us a new assumptions, a new type of mindset that will affect our behaviors and then reflect in our attitudes, and then it will reflect into the type of response that we're going to create relevant to a certain problem. And this what bring for us the opportunities that we are looking for, or the vectors of the problem we want to exploit. I think Marhamat is one of the cases that is discussed in this course or module once you take it in a class. It is a good example. So in Marhamat, we look for these variables. What we observe, the type of food, the type of the demographics, the type of how long these people has been there, what type of services they are getting, how much it costs them, what type of behaviors has developed. All these affected actually the solution we provided for such type of problem. Now, for that, we believe that the more we have a good observation, we can create good cycles that create better engagement. So through observation, we can exploit the intrinsic powers, and we can raise the capacity versus demand. Inspiration economy actually increase its engagement with the environment around it, or with the communities, through the way of thinking it develops based on the observation that lead to learning by doing, or leads to a better problem solving. And this is what we say. It is a technique that raises the capacity versus demand, and involve the non-financial wealth within the community, and create more focused environment that bring more humbleness to people, and make them more selective, so that they can create their own models, their own live models. And that's what makes the difference of inspiration economy. For that, once we utilize observation in a proper way, we can again, let's say, utilize the intrinsic power, and we can manage or absorb the challenges and surprises, and we can also raise the attention and the observation capacity of the people involved. And for that, the surprises will not be an issue for to have the community, for example, have a neuro alert, response. So the readiness of cognitive resources will be much better, and it can again help us in dealing with major challenges, like major crisis, similar to the pandemic, or COVID pandemic. So an observation, we need to again take in mind that how we need our mind to be shaped by a certain techniques, instead of shaped by capital-based economy. So instead of being focused on only the physiological needs, or the safety needs, or the belonging needs, or the self-esteem, which is create for us most of the time deficiency needs, we should focus on how we motivate the socio-economic change within the community, so that it can really move from supply versus demand to more of focus on the need to know, or the need to understand. And this is where the observation play a good role. So we should focus on both sides, the deficiency needs and the self-motivation needs, which is kind of bring the community or those involved or the target beneficiaries to a better status and help them to get more development and advancement in the real life situation. And this will increase also the life purposefulness of those involved with the project. So through what we observe first, through focusing on capacity versus demand and what is bring the variables relevant to capacity versus demand, instead of the variables of supply versus demand, which we call them the deficiency needs, we can really bring better solutions or creative solutions to the community. Now, one of the things that is we should focus on when we do observation is that we should build or understand when one area of the brain is activated and when the other areas will be activated based on a pathway, which is we call it association pathways. Because such association pathways bring what we call it curious observations. And this starts first with the frontal lobe. Frontal lobe is the first receiver of observation. It is the first receiver of the hidden opportunities within a problem. It is where is the area we call it impulse control or judgment or initiation. And then we will involve also the most limbic pathways, where it triggered the dopamine and create an activation of curiosity exploration attempts. And this will trigger the nucleus accumbens, and of course this will lead to creating a better results through having abstract conceptualization in the parietal lobe. These waves, once they start, they will even affect the occipital lobe, which is part of assumptions, and the cerebellar higher complex functions and motivations. Of course, this will affect also the brain stem in the long run. Now, there are certain observing assets that we need to take into consideration when we start collecting the observation. Since we live in a world where it is driven by capital-based economy, when the economy wants to thrive, whether or less to grow, the world need to first focus on a human-based economy rather than on a capital-based economy. So for that, we say we should focus on the non-financial capital or non-financial resources or non-financial assets like the human capital, the social capital, the natural capital, the physical capital. And then also we start to associate whatever we can get out from such observations to bring other hidden, again, capitals or other hidden wealth. Then we think about the financial capital at the end of the day. So the overall of these observations will help us to build the formula of overall productivity effectiveness. That is the capacity, we call it the capacity, which is based on our capacity to be available, our capacity to be effective, our capacity to be efficient. The more we build these three capacities, availability, effectiveness, and efficiency, the more we can change actually the environment that we are targeting to, let's say, improve or mitigate or eliminate. And this is why we say the method of observation is very important. I think I will stop with you here and continue with you next time. Thank you very much.